How are you guys doing? Today is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile for Leroy Sane. The elite German winger for Bayern Munich turns 26 today, and my intention with this episode is, of course, to point out how he affects the game on a micro level, how game in and game out, he is proving that he is one of the best players in the world and proving that he is deserving of that Bayern Munich uniform, and of course, wearing that number 10 with it. And of course, I'm going to point out his impact on a macro level, look at the trophies that he's been able to amass as being one part on a very big team that pretty much needs perfection in order to win the trophies and titles that it does. So if you're unfamiliar with Leroy Sane, he stands at about 6 feet tall. He's very thin. He's very nimble. Of course, he's very good with dribbling the ball. He can really shoot from a lot of places, but I will say that a lot of his production and a lot of his skill really rises out of his confidence when he's definitely at his most confident and he's allowed to kind of free roam and do whatever he wants. He's one of the more dangerous players in soccer. So, getting really quickly into his background, originally from Essen, Germany, he would find himself moving around the youth organizations until he was brought up with the Schalke organization in 2014 when he was a teenager. He would go on to make his debut for Schalke in his age 17 season in 2013. He only played one match in a season where Schalke would finish with the third best record in all of the Bundesliga for the year. And of course, following that year would be the summer in which Germany would win the World Cup. But of course, he was far too young to even be considered for the team. However, he would return for a second year with Schalke in his age 18 season in 2014-15. In his first full-ish season as a member of the club, he would start 7 of the 13 matchups he played in a season where Schalke would finish as the 6th best team in the Bundesliga. This year, in the Bundesliga itself, he would add 3 goals in the 13 matches he played. He also played one Champions League matchup, but in his very first Champions League matchup, he would finish with a goal. And this would also be in the season where Schalke would go all the way to the round of 16 in Champions League, as they ended up losing to Real Madrid, who ended up losing to Juventus in the semis, who ended up losing to Barcelona at the very end. But that was the very first time that he would sniff the Champions League. This would transition into his third season with Schalke, and his last season there, it would be his age 19 season in 2015-2016. And in that season, he would start 23 of the 33 matchups he played for a Schalke side that finished with the 5th best record in the Bundesliga. They would eventually get knocked down to the Europa League and make the round of 32. Within the Bundesliga itself, Leroy Sane would finish with 8 goals and 6 assists as a teenager to establish himself as one of the better young German players in the world. He would also go on to finish with 2 games played in the DFB Pokal. And of course, within this year, Schalke would end up losing in the very second round of the Pokal. So he played in both those games. And once knocked to Europa League, he would finish with a goal and an assist. As, like I said, Schalke would make it all the way to the round of 32 and end up losing in that round. Following that season, he would also compete with Germany. He played in one matchup at the Euros, as Germany will go all the way to the final, or go all the way to the semifinals this year. They would find themselves eventually losing in the semifinals to France after they had made it through the knockout phase. Then they beat Slovakia in the round of 16. They would go on to beat Italy in the quarterfinals off of penalty kicks. But like I said, they would lose to France in the semis. That would be the only international tournament that Leroy Sane had been a part of. But the fact that he had been called up after his 3 seasons at Germany hinted that he was definitely on his way to doing a lot of good things. Following his 3 years at Schalke, he would eventually get picked up by Manchester City. He would sign a 5-year contract to play there, and he would end up playing 5 years. In his very first season with the club, or he played 4 seasons with Man City. His first season with the club would be his age 20 season in 2016-2017. In his first year in Man City, he would start 20 of the 26 matchups he played for a Premier League side that finished with the third best record in all of the Prem. I'm looking at how he's fared specifically within the Premier League in his first season. He finished with 5 goals and 2 assists. I'm trying to be a part of as many scoring plays as he really could. He would play 5 games in an FA Cup run that would see them eventually losing in the semifinals. But within the FA Cup tournament, he finished with 2 goals and an assist. He played 2 League Cup games in a run that would see Man City lose in the 4th round, but he was able to play in both those games, was not able to score, and he would go on to play in 4 Champions League matchups as Man City would find themselves going all the way to the round of 16. In this year, they would end up going all the way until they lost to Monaco. Monaco will go all the way to the semifinals. This is when Monaco had Kylian Mbappe. They ended up losing to Juventus in that semifinal round. Following that first season, Leroy Sane was counted upon to become a full-time starter with the team. In his second full year as a starter with Man City in his age 21 season in 2017-18, he would start 27 of the 32 matchups he played in a season where Manchester City will go on to win the Premier League title with 100 points. It was a record-breaking season, and it was all on Amazon, actually. They will go on to win the Premier League. They lost in the 5th round of the FA Cup, and they will go on to win the EFL, the English Football League Cup, for the very first time since Sane had been there in his very first season. Looking first at how he fared in the Premier League season, he finished with 10 goals and 15 assists. He had never finished with 10 goals or 15 assists in a season up until that year, and this was his age 21 season. In the FA Cup, where Man City would eventually where they would get knocked out in the round of 5, Leroy Sane would finish with a goal and an assist. In the League Cup, where they eventually went all the way to the finals, and when they went to the final and won, he would finish with 3 goals and an assist in the 5 matchups he played. Man City would find themselves getting all the way to the Champions League quarterfinals, as in this year, they ended up losing to Liverpool, as Liverpool went all the way to the final to lose to Real Madrid this year. But that is how Man City's Champions League season would finish. But this would be a very historic year, as Leroy Sané's 25 scoring plays would be a very big part of the reason that Man City was able to dominate that season. This would be the very first time he had won the Premier League title, and the first time he won a domestic title as a crucial cog in a very well-running system. Following that championship season, he would come back for his second year with Man City, because after he did not compete with Germany in 2018, after having a little bit of personal qualms with the head coach Jogi Löw, but he would come back for his second year for his third year starting at Man City. In his age 22 season in 2018-2019, Leroy Sane would start 21 of the 31 matchups he played in the Premier League for a Man City side that will go on to win the Premier League title for the second year in a row. This year, they had actually won more titles than the year before, despite having 2 less games in the Premier League as a whole. But within the Premier League, Leroy Sane finished with 10 goals for the second year in a row, and he finished with 10 assists. Second year in a row, he had double-digit in both, and the last time he had done so in the Premier League for a full season. As, like I said, Man City would go on to win those matchups. He would go on to play 4 matchups in an FA Cup run that would see Manchester City go on and win it for the very first time that Sane was there. They would end up beating Watford 6-0 as they had made it to that final, as Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus each finished with a brace. He will go on to play 3 games in a League Cup run where he would finish with 2 assists. Man City would go on to win the EFL Cup, as they ended up beating Chelsea off of penalty kicks. Sane was the only player from Manchester City who didn't make his shot that season. They would also go on to win the Community Cup Shield that season too, as they ended up beating Chelsea 2-0. Both of those goals being scored by their striker Sergio Aguero. And he would go on to finish playing well in that Community Shield run. He would play 8 games in a Champions League run that would see Man City go all the way to the quarterfinals. And then in the quarterfinals, they would end up losing to Tottenham. Tottenham ended up going all the way to the final, where they would end up losing to Liverpool, and that was when Liverpool won their most recent Champions League. So that was Leroy Sane helping Man City win an incredible amount of trophies, even though they came up just short of Champions League. This would transition into Leroy Sané's 4th and final season with the Man City club. In his age 23 season, he only played 1 game in a season where Man City would go on to finish runners-up in the league behind Liverpool. This was the year that was impacted by COVID. But specifically looking at Sane would end up dealing with a really big I believe it was a knee injury. It was a torn ACL. He was actually talking with Bayern to be possibly moved to Bayern that offseason, but he had to spend that entire offseason recovering. He would not make his debut with Bayern Munich until his next season, which would be his age 24 season in 2020-2021. In that season, in his first season back in Germany, he would start 18 of the 32 matchups in a Bundesliga season, where Bayern Munich would go on to win the Bundesliga. And Sané's first season was in 2020-2021, which would be the last or the 9th straight season in a row in which Bayern had won it. And this is the last full season that he has played to date. In the 32 matchups he played in the Bundesliga, he finished with 6 goals and 9 assists, as of course Bayern went on to win the Bundesliga, as they were virtually expected to. They ended up losing in the second round of the in the DFB Pokal, though. But in the Pokal, he finished with a goal in the 1 matchup he played in his debut, or in his first game back, in a sense. He would go on to play in 8 games for on a Bundesliga or on a Champions League run that saw Bayern Munich go all the way to the quarterfinals. In the quarterfinals, Bayern would end up losing to PSG, as they were missing Robert Lewandowski for the tournament. However, following this matchup, they would end up. This would be the year in which Man City would end up losing to Chelsea. His former team they made it all the way to the final, but they still were not able to win. But following this most recent season for Bayern Munich, in which he was able to pick up the hardware and win it, he was able to compete with Germany at the Euro Championships for the 2nd straight time. He would play 4 games in a run that saw Germany lose in the semifinal, or they lost in the round of 16 to England 2-0, as Sterling and Kane scored both those goals. He was unable to score in any of the 4 games, but he was still a big part of the reason that Germany was able to play as well as it did. And following Germany's round of 16 exit, he, of course, would return to where he is right now, playing with Bayern Munich. And thus far, he started 14 of the 17 Bundesliga matchups he's played for a Bayern Munich team that is sitting 6 points clear of second place Borussia Dortmund in the table for the time being. Bayern Munich has won 14 of the 18 games they've played, as Sané's only missed 1 of them. In the Bundesliga, he has 5 goals and 5 assists. He's very close to topping his Bundesliga high in goals, and it'll be I imagine that he's definitely on pace to do so in the assist category as well. Taking a look at what else he's done this season, he was able to finish with a goal and 2 assists, as he's played 2 matchups for Bayern Munich in the Pokal this year, and he's also been able to add 5 goals and 4 assists in the 6 Champions League matchups he's played, as Bayern Munich virtually coasted their way through the Champions League group stage. And their upcoming Champions League opponents will be RB Salzburg from one country over in Austria. Their first matchup will be in Salzburg on February 16th, and then leg 2 will be on March 8th, as Bayern Munich is inching a little bit closer towards trying to be the best team in Europe. And of course, he's looking forward to this 2021 or this 2022 World Cup that's going to be taking place in Qatar, as he is most definitely going to be making an appearance for Germany, as he has been one of their more consistent players. With that said, I think putting it all together, I think you could really put the pieces together and see how impactful Leroy Sane has been for every team that he's played for, whether it be his Germany side, Man City, or Bayern Munich, or even Schalke way before that. And I think that considering Leroy Sane is just 26 years old and he's showing that he's done all this up until now, I have a lot of faith that the next few years are very bright as he enters the second half of his 20s. And I can't wait to see what he does for the German national team and what he does for Bayern Munich, or what he does for the clubs after that. You ever get a chance, I would recommend watching him. He wears number 10 for Bayern Munich. Not exactly sure what number he's wearing for Germany for the upcoming World Cup. But I want to also thank the Footy Stats, Transfermarkt, and the various Bundesliga, Premier League websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I needed from them. And of course, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well. Once all of today's matchups and exhibitions are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Tuesday, January 12th, which is my sister's birthday. And hopefully by this time next year, I'll hopefully have one more year's worth of content to give you in terms of how Leroy Sane has grown over this next year. With that said, I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another piece after this. Thanks for listening to my piece right now, and peace out. I'll catch you tomorrow.